Next is Mike Neidl. Mike is the Legislative Director of the New York State AFL-CIO.
Thank you, Donna, and I want to thank everyone from the Hudson Valley ALF for inviting me, and all of the speakers that went ahead of me. It's great to hear you and listen to you, and I hope everyone on this call is healthy and your families are well. And to be working and healthy right now is quite a blessing, as I think folks just alluded to. Our safety net is not cutting it for those who are not working or unable to work. I'm going to stick to the Amazon issue for this call. This is really a national problem, an economic problem with our economy, as folks just pointed out. But there are things we can do at the state level in New York, and things that we've been fighting for. The Amazon model is really not new. They've just they've perfected it and brought it to a new level. Walmart's been doing this all across the country, and we drove many small businesses out when we went to malls years ago. So the whole concept of a big company moving in, getting tax breaks, and hiring people at a low cost isn't really new. It's just that Amazon has brought it to a new level. And, we've been doing our best to try to counter that. We have community against community right now, just fighting to give away as much taxes as they can, on top of giving away land and building infrastructure like sewers and roads and bridges, and then giving ongoing year after year tax breaks that cost our education system and our school districts and our social safety net. And even in instances where they're able to reach an agreement to use union labor on construction, that lack of ongoing taxes means future construction is going to be in trouble in those localities. So that's what we give away when we do this. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I point all of that out. But the reason I raise it is because, this year we did have some success at the state level in passing public works reform on the construction end, so that in the future, many of these private projects that receive public assistance will be required to start paying prevailing rate if they are not reaching agreement with local labor. Now, that bill is a first step. We need to go further. It doesn't do anything. The other side of the coin on construction is the permanent jobs. So we are in the process of developing more legislation that when companies or other employers that receive public assistance, they will also need to pay prevailing rate, which would be a hybrid of an enhanced minimum wage, as well as a benefit structure or the cash equivalent, so those workers can go out and get their own benefits, as well as paid leave, sick leave, paid family leave, et cetera, to be built onto those things whenever these companies use public funds in any form. That's a Herculean effort, but we were successful in taking step one this year in the state budget, and we're going to continue that fight to make the construction piece better, as well as the permanent jobs. The other thing, and Leanna brought up something I think that is very important, and it's a priority of the New York State AFL-CIO. Amazon is more and more moving into this gig economy model. And you rightly pointed out that for their distribution, they're already starting to go into that model. But they are also the lead of an organization called the Internet Association of New York State, which is made up of all of these different companies, and that includes Uber, and that includes Postmates, and all of the other companies that are now operating on apps. And they don't even bother paying minimum wage or anything. They call their workers independent contractors. And we've seen what a disaster it has created in relation to COVID. None of those workers are eligible for unemployment. None of those workers are eligible for workers' comp. If they're injured, they're not eligible for the paid sick leave that workers could use if they had to quarantine because they were exposed to COVID or thought they might be. So that whole model is right now considered the future of work. And as hard as it is to believe, the current Amazon model actually gets worse if you look at the gig economy and where we're headed. So we do have legislation constructed. We've introduced different parts of it because of the current federal position on the gig economy that the NLRB and the Department of Labor have taken. It does. The bad news is that nationally, those workers are out of luck in terms of rights. The good news is that in New York State, we have relatively strong labor laws that, if enforced properly and used the right way, we can get these workers the right to organize at the state level in the gig economy, as well as get them other rights. And that process has begun. In fact, we recently won a very important court decision, Vega versus Postmates, where the highest court in the state upheld the Department of Labor's decision that Postmates workers should be entitled to unemployment. And we're going to fight like heck to make sure that applies to Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, Grubhub, and go down the list of all the employers that have popped up. There's a new one every day. So those are a couple of the avenues we're fighting, the ongoing fight specific to Amazon, but really specific to our own economic development model, to make sure that we're using union labor in instances where we're not. Those companies need to pay prevailing rate. And on the flip side, both on construction and on the flip side, the permanent jobs that get created by these companies. And then the gig economy model to rein that in as it develops, because it is a really bad future for workers if that is the case. By the way, the gig economy, the more workers that go into that program right now, and there are tens of thousands just in this state, it undermines workers' compensation as a system. It undermines the unemployment system. That's less employers paying into those programs, and that's less workers eligible for it. So for the existing workforce that does rely on those programs, construction, for example, seasonal workers who need to access unemployment when they're not working, those systems are very quickly going to become underfunded as the gig economy grows and less employers are paying into it. And that's true for Social Security and many other programs as well. So again, I appreciate the time. I just wanted to give you those couple of examples. There are other things we're working on as well, but those are the two priorities that have risen to the top and that we're starting to get traction on. And we'll certainly look for help from our partners and organizations like the DSA and our other affiliates that are part of this call and affiliated with us at the state level as well. So thank you.